The summer sun beat down on the pavement, making the air shimmer. I sighed, adjusting the stack of flyers in my arms. Grand reopening. Clash and curls, salon and gym combo deals. Handing them out was my weekend chore, a duty born from being the only daughter of a hairdresser and a martial arts instructor. I was just about to offer a flyer to a harried-looking woman when they appeared. Floating, translucent words, scrolling vertically in the air just to my right like a ghostly social media feed. *user_blue sky, ugh, this is boring. Can we skip to the good part? Lore Lover 22, for real. In like 5 minutes, the future tech billionaire villain, Liam Vance, is going to stumble out of that alleyway up ahead. He got jumped by some rivals. I froze, my hand still outstretched. The woman walked past, oblivious. I blinked rapidly, but the words remained. Villain fan 99, and our clueless MC just walks right by. She's too busy with her flyers. He sees her ignore him, and that's the first seed of his hatred. Plot predictor, yep. 10 years from now, when he's powerful and bitter, he'll remember this moment. Her parents' businesses are the first he destroys for spite. My blood ran cold. My parents? The salon and the gym? I looked down the street at the alley between the bakery and the laundromat. It was the same one I passed every day. Another comment flashed. Justice for all, it's such a waste. The guy who just gives him a bottle of water and a bandage later gets a senior VP position and a 7-figure bonus. Our girl missed her golden ticket. My heart hammered against my ribs. This wasn't a daydream. This was a spoiler for my own life. A cannon fodder character in a story I never knew I was in. I didn't waste another second. I spun on my heel, the flyers forgotten in a fluttering pile on the sidewalk, and sprinted back the way I came. My sneakers slapped against the concrete. Future villain. My parents. Revenge. The word cycled in my head like a mantra of panic. I skidded to a halt at the mouth of the alley, my chest heaving. And there he was. Liam Vance. Even slumped against a grimy dumpster, face bruised and one eye swelling shut, he was recognizable. He was the new transfer student, the one with the perpetually hunched shoulders and the curtain of dark hair that always hid half his face. The one everyone whispered about. He looked up as my shadow fell over him. His one good eye, a startling shade of stormy gray, widened in shock and then shame. He tried to shrink back, wincing in pain. The comments erupted again. Softy for villains, oh, he looks so lost. His family treats him like garbage. They blame him for his little sister's illness. Aesthetic aura, that scar on his jaw isn't from today. His dad, yikes. No wonder he grows up so messed up. Save the villain 2024, someone just be nice to him. He doesn't have to become a monster, a scar? I looked closer. Beneath the fresh bruises and dirt, a thin, pale line traced his jaw. My resolve hardened into something sharp and determined. I wasn't going to be the girl who walked by. I wasn't going to let my parents' world burn for a slight I didn't even commit. I took a step forward, crouching down so we were at eye level. Liam? I said, my voice softer than I expected. I'm Alara. Alara Reed. From the class next door. He stared at me, utterly bewildered. He clutched his ribs, his knuckles white. Stay here, I instructed, sounding braver than I felt. I'll be right back. I ran to the pharmacy down the block, my mind racing. Antiseptic wipes, bandages, antibiotic ointment, a bottle of cold water. When I returned, he was still there, looking like he'd been caught in a dream he couldn't wake up from. I worked quietly, cleaning the cut on his brow, dabbing at the blood under his nose. He flinched at first, then stilled, watching me with an intensity that was unnerving. He smelled faintly of dust and, beneath that, the sharp scent of fear. Thank you, he mumbled, his voice rough. He accepted the water bottle I offered and drank greedily. Don't mention it, I said, giving him my best, reassuring smile. First aid and rescue service. That'll be $500. His face went pale. I don't, I laughed, the sound cutting through the tension. I'm kidding. But as payment, you have to take one of these. I pulled a slightly crumpled flyer from my back pocket and handed it to him. My dad's salon. Free makeover. You look like you could use one. He looked down at the bright paper, then back at me, suspicion and confusion warring in his gaze. The comments cooed. Asterisk, shipper alert, OMG, she's recruiting him. This is a new plot line. Realist reader, don't get your hopes up. The true heroine, Chloe, will show up next semester and he'll fall for her instantly. This is just a detour. Asterisk, I ignored them. I had a mission now. I wasn't just saving Liam Vance from a life of crime. I was saving us all. Liam Vance looked like a startled deer caught in headlights, poised to bolt from the worn leather chair in my dad's salon. The heavy scent of bleach and hairspray hung in the air, a familiar perfume to me, but clearly an alien atmosphere to him. My dad, Leo Reed, a mountain of a man with a graying beard and biceps that stretched the sleeves of his tight black t-shirt, circled the chair. He'd traded his usual gym shorts for a pair of clean jeans for the occasion. He clicked his tongue, not in disapproval, but in assessment. So, you're the project my daughter dragged in, he said, his voice a low rumble. He gently lifted a strand of Liam's greasy, overgrown hair. Kid, you've got a bone structure my regular clients would kill for. Why are you hiding it? Liam flinched, his shoulders hiking up to his ears. It's fine. It's not, I chimed in, leaning against the station. It's a security blanket made of split ends. The floating comments, which had been a steady stream of background noise, flared to life. Asterisk, style savant, yes. Get those shears working. Free the jawline. Dylan origin story, he's so tense. I bet he hasn't let anyone this close to his face in years. Truth teller, remember the scar. The comments said his dad gave it to him. Be careful. Asterisk, my dad, oblivious to the spectral audience, worked with a quiet confidence. He didn't just cut, he sculpted. The first snip of the scissors sent a shiver through Liam's frame. As the heavy, dirty locks fell away, a sharper, more defined profile began to emerge. My dad was an artist, and Liam's face was his marble. Then, it happened. As the last of the curtain-like bangs were trimmed away from his left temple, my dad paused. Well, would you look at that, he murmured. There, arching from his temple down towards his jaw, was the scar. It was older, silvery, and thin, but unmistakable. It wasn't ugly, it was a stark, elegant line that told a story of pain Liam had never spoken. Liam's eyes shot up to the mirror, wide with panic. His hand twitched as if to cover the revealed mark. I know it's a badge of survival, kid, my dad said, his tone leaving no room for argument. He didn't ask how he got it. He just met Liam's terrified gaze in the reflection. You don't hide these things. You own them. They're part of the map that shows where you've been. I saw Liam's throat work as he swallowed hard. He was staring at his own reflection like he was seeing a stranger. Without the hair, his gray eyes seemed larger, more intense. The sharp line of his jaw, the high cheekbones, it was all there, just waiting to be uncovered. See? I said, moving to stand beside the chair. I grinned at his reflection. I told you. Hidden gem. He finally tore his eyes away from the mirror to look at me, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. Judith, he began, using the fake name I'd given him in the alley, his voice barely a whisper. It's Elara, I corrected softly. Elara Reed. He nodded, absorbing that. Elara. My name on his lips sounded different. More real. My dad finished up with the clippers and a final touch of product, crafting the messy, textured style that was his signature. He spun the chair around with a flourish. Tada. What do we think? Liam looked, transformed. The boy who hid in the shadows was gone. In his place was a young man with a striking, almost severe handsomeness. The scar didn't mar his features, it gave them a dangerous, intriguing edge. The comments went into a frenzy. Asterisk, fangirl fever, holy character glow up. He's gorgeous. Plot twist, the villain arc is getting a rewrite. I repeat, the villain arc is being rewritten. Cynical Sally, don't get too excited. A haircut doesn't change a tragic backstory. The real heroine, Chloe, is still out there. Asterisk, I pushed the last comment aside. Not today. Liam tentatively raised a hand, his fingers brushing against the newly exposed skin of his forehead. I look like you, I finished for him. You look like you. My dad clapped him on the shoulder, making him jump. All right, kid. A deal's a deal. The makeover was free. But how about you earn a little cash? I need someone to sweep up, restock the towels. Pays 15 an hour, cash daily. Liam's head snapped up, his eyes wide with disbelief. A job? You got 2 hands, don't you? Dad said, already walking away to greet a waiting client. First shift starts now. Alara, show him where the broom is. I watched as Liam, almost in a daze, stood up. He took one last long look at himself in the mirror, a strange, determined set to his newly visible jaw. Then he turned to me. Where's the broom? He asked, his voice still quiet, but firmer than before. I smiled, feeling a surge of victory. Step 1 of operation, save Liam Vance, and our family businesses, was complete. We hadn't just changed his hair. We'd thrown a wrench right into the gears of his tragic destiny. And as I led him to the supply closet, I couldn't help but think that the boy following me, with his clear gray eyes and his head held a little higher, was already far more interesting than any villain the comments had promised. The broom in Liam's hands was a weapon of intense focus. He swept the floor of clash and curls with a quiet, methodical precision, collecting the fallen strands of hair into a perfect, dark pile. He'd been silent since the haircut, a whirlwind of activity that seemed to be his way of processing the world being tilted on its axis. I was wiping down the mirrors when my mom, Kayla, burst through the connecting door from the gym. She was a compact force of nature, her hair tied back in a severe ponytail, her athletic wear showing off muscles that made most of Dad's clients look soft. Leo, I need you to spot me in 10, she began, then stopped dead. Her sharp eyes, the same shade of hazel as mine, landed on Liam. She didn't see the new haircut first, she saw the fading bruises on his face, the careful way he held his ribs as he bent to empty the dustpan. Her expression shifted from harried to protective in a heartbeat. Who's this? New part-time help, Dad called from his station, not looking up from the fade he was crafting. Liam. Alara's friend. Asterisk friend. Asterisk the word hung in the air. Liam sweeping stilled for a fraction of a second. The comments flickered. Asterisk, family vibes, he's being adopted. You love to see it. Backstory dive, his mom never looks at him with that kind of concern. She just cries about his sister and asks for money. Asterisk mom walked over to Liam, her gaze appraising but not unkind. Those ribs taped? She asked, her voice losing its booming quality. Liam shook his head, avoiding her eyes. It's fine. It's not, she said, echoing my dad's earlier sentiment. You're favoring your left side. Who taught you to take a hit? Trial and error, he mumbled. Mom snorted. Inefficient. You're coming to the gym this weekend. I'll teach you how to fall, how to block. Make the error worth it. Liam looked utterly bewildered, his gaze darting from my mom to me. I can't pay for lessons. Who said anything about paying? Mom replied, already turning away. It's a staff benefit. You work here, you learn to defend yourself. Saturday, 10 a.m. Don't be late. She pointed a finger at me. And you, Missy. You're on dinner duty. This one needs feeding up. He looks like a strong breeze could knock him over. With that, she disappeared back into the gym, leaving a vacuum of stunned silence. Dad chuckled. You get used to it, kid. Resistance is futile. Later, as the sun began to set, I shoved a flyer into Liam's hand. Here. The bus schedule. The one that stops a block from here goes right by the nice part of town, where all the big houses are. I'd seen the comments about his family, the damp storage room he slept in. I couldn't fix that, not yet, but I could give him an escape route. He stared at the paper, his knuckles white. Thank you, he said, the words thick with an emotion I couldn't name. Don't thank me yet, I said, leading him to the back room where a small table was set. You haven't tasted my cooking. I'd made spaghetti, a simple, carb-heavy meal designed to stick to the ribs. When I piled a mountain of pasta onto his plate, he looked at it like it was a foreign artifact. My dad didn't help, dropping 2 giant meatballs on top of the mound. Eat. You need mass. We ate surrounded by the smell of hair dye and disinfectant. It was awkward at first. Liam was so quiet, his manners almost painfully precise, as if he was terrified of making a mistake. But as my dad launched into a story about a client who'd requested a poodle perm, I saw the corner of Liam's mouth twitch. Then, he actually smiled. It was small, hesitant, like a sunbeam breaking through a weeks-long storm, but it was real. It transformed his entire face, softening the sharp lines and the severity of the scar. The comments swooned. Asterisk, he smiled, did you see that? My heart. Asterisk. Asterisk, character growth, he's so unused to kindness. Look at him, he doesn't know what to do with it. Jealous heroine, just wait until Chloe sees him. She's gonna be pissed someone else got to him first. Asterisk, I pushed the last one away, focusing on the boy in front of me. So, I said, as we finished washing the dishes. Saturday. The gym. You'll come? He dried a plate with intense concentration, then nodded. Yes. He looked at me, his gray eyes clear in the fluorescent light of the back room. Your family, they're very loud? Overbearing? Yeah, I grinned. But they're stuck with you now. Welcome to the chaos, Liam. He didn't smile back, but the tension in his shoulders eased just a little. Chaos, he repeated, almost to himself. It's better than quiet. As he left to catch his bus, flyer clutched tightly in his hand, I felt a strange sense of accomplishment. We hadn't just given him a job or a haircut. We'd given him an invitation. A place to be. And for someone who'd always been on the outside, that was everything. The path of the villain was paved with isolation. We were building a roadblock out of spaghetti, self-defense lessons, and terrible jokes. And so far, it was holding. True to his word, Liam showed up at the gym on Saturday. My mom, Kayla, put him through a beginner's regimen that was more about form than force. She taught him how to stand, how to pivot, how to take a punch without shattering. He was a quick study, his movements naturally economical and precise. The fear in his eyes was slowly being replaced by a flicker of focused intensity. On Monday, I waited for him on the corner near his bus stop. When he saw me, his steps faltered for a second before he resumed his pace, a question in his eyes. What are you doing here? He asked, his breath misting in the cool morning air. Walking to school, I said, falling into step beside him. It's on my way. It wasn't, not really. But the comments had been buzzing about the whispers that would follow him through the halls, the shock of his new appearance, the cruelty of kids who didn't understand change. I wasn't going to let him face that alone. The reaction was immediate. As we entered the school gates, heads turned. The girl who had once called him creepy in the hallway did a double take, her mouth slightly agape. A group of guys from the basketball team stopped their conversation to stare. Liam's shoulders crept upward, his old habit of making himself small resurfacing. Eyes forward, Vance, I said, my voice low. They're staring because you look like you just walked out of a magazine, not because there's something on your face. He glanced at me, a skeptical arch to his eyebrow, but he straightened his posture a little. I pulled him into my orbit, introducing him to my friends as Liam, the genius from next door who's helping my dad at the salon. It was a shield, a new identity to replace the old one. My friends, used to my chaotic energy, accepted him with easygoing curiosity. For a few days, it worked. The whispers died down. But I knew the peace was fragile. The breaking point came in the cafeteria on Thursday. Liam and I were at a table, sharing the lunch I'd packed, thick sandwiches and fruit, when they approached. Richard Sloane, the senior who'd put the bruises on Liam's ribs, swaggered up with his usual entourage. Well, Richard sneered, his eyes raking over Liam's clean, well-fitting clothes, donations from my dad's aspirational wardrobe. Look who cleaned up. Finally found someone to take pity on you, freak? Liam went rigid beside me. Let's just go, he murmured, already gathering his things. Richard's gaze landed on the scar, now fully visible. Damn, no wonder you hid it. That thing is nasty. Must be why your own family can't stand to look at you. I felt my smile freeze on my face. My blood went from warm to boiling in half a second. The comments flashed, a red alert. Asterisk, user_justice, OHNO he didn't. Fight, get him, Elara. Protect your villain. Cautionary tale, this is a pivotal moment. In the original timeline, Liam internalizes this and it fuels his rage. Asterisk, I didn't answer Liam. Instead, I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the linoleum floor. The entire cafeteria was watching now. I'll be right back, I said, my voice deceptively calm. I didn't run, but my walk was a determined march. I exited the cafeteria, ignored the questioning look from a teacher, and burst out into the bright sunlight. I hopped on the electric scooter I'd left chained up outside and zipped the 3 blocks home. In our freezer was a bag of rock-hard, frozen dinner rolls. My mom bought them in bulk and always forgot to thaw them. I grabbed the bag, a solid, icy brick, and sped back to school. When I re-entered the cafeteria, the scene was unchanged. Richard was still holding court, a smug look on his face. Liam looked pale, trapped. I strode right up to their table and slammed the bag of frozen buns down in front of Richard with a heavy thud. Here, I said, my voice cheerful and loud enough to carry. You look hungry. Have a bun. Richard stared at the frozen block, then at me like I'd lost my mind. What? You think I've got iron teeth? It's frozen solid. The cafeteria was utterly silent. Oh, is it? I said, my smile never wavering. I rolled up my sleeves, took a deep breath, and then, with a sharp, practiced motion, I drove my fist down onto the bag. Asterisk crack. Asterisk the frozen mass splintered. I hit it again, and again, my knuckles pounding against the hard dough until it was a pile of shards and crumbs. The sound was brutal and shocking in the quiet room. I swept the shattered pieces into an empty bowl and slid it toward Richard, my expression cooling. There. Now it's not frozen. Eat it, I said, my voice dropping to a dangerous low. Or apologize to Liam. Richard gaped at me, his bravado shattered as completely as the buns. I heard you do taekwondo, Richard. That's cute. I leaned forward, planting my hands on the table. My mom's a black belt. I've been sparring with her since I was 6. You want a match? Anytime. I let that hang in the air for a moment before delivering the final blow, a lie spun from whole cloth but fueled by pure protective fury. And by the way, she's made Liam her godson. So you're not just insulting him. You're insulting my family. Richard's face flushed a blotchy red. The social calculus was too much. Facing the school's resident muscle girl in a fight he knew he'd lose, or apologizing. He grumbled, his eyes on the floor. Sorry. I turned to Liam. Was that acceptable? Liam, who had been watching the entire spectacle with stunned, wide eyes, gave a slow, single nod. Good. I looked back at the table of bullies. Let's be clear. My people, I said, sweeping a hand to indicate Liam, I protect. I turned and walked away, Liam following silently in my wake. As we left the cafeteria, I felt a hand on my elbow. Liam stopped me, his expression unreadable. He pulled a tissue from his pocket and, with a surprising gentleness, began to brush the red, powdery crumbs of bun from the back of my bruised knuckles. The comment feed exploded. Asterisk, bodyguard activated, she said my people. I'm screaming. Dylan flustered, did you see his face? He's not scared, he's awestruck. He's blushing. Original plot, this is not how this was supposed to go. The heroine is supposed to calm his rage, not someone else stoke his devotion. Asterisk he didn't say a word as he cleaned my hand. But when he finally looked up at me, the stormy gray of his eyes held a new, unmistakable light. It was the look of someone who had been alone in the dark for so long, he'd forgotten what a sunrise looked like. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't just derailing a villain's origin story. I was accidentally writing a whole new one. The change in Liam was gradual but profound, like a photograph developing in a darkroom. The scarecrow frame I'd met in the alley began to fill out, thanks to my mom's high-protein meal plans and my relentless feeding. The hollows under his cheekbones softened. When we sparred at the gym now, I could feel the solid strength in his blocks, the confident balance in his stance. He still walked to school with me every morning, a silent, steady presence. He'd started refusing the concealer I'd sometimes offer to help blend his scar. It's part of the map, he'd say, echoing my dad's words with a quiet defiance that made me proud. But today was different. Today was his birthday. After a particularly intense sparring session where we'd both ended up sweating and breathless, I grinned at him. Come on. Lunch is on me. It's a birthday benefit for our star employee. I'd planned to take him to a decent burger place, a treat far removed from the cafeteria's steamed buns. But as we cut through the bustling mall, we ran into a roadblock in the form of a sneering, round-faced kid. Liam stiffened instantly. Owen. His younger brother looked Liam up and down, his expression a perfect mimicry of the disdain I'd seen on their parents' faces the one time they'd come to the salon demanding his wages. "So this is where you've been," Owen drawled. "Playing house with your new family. Mom says you're too ashamed to come home. Give me some money. I want a new game." Liam's jaw tightened. "I don't have any. You took the 50 I had saved last week." "You're a liar," the kid spat, his voice dripping with a venom that was far too old for him. "She's obviously paying you." He jerked his chin at me. "Or are you paying her? Mom says that scar makes you unlovable, but I guess some people have low standards." My vision tinted red. I took a step forward, my fist clenching. "Listen, you little gremlin," I hissed. "That money is mine, entrusted to him. One more word and I'm not above disciplining a child in public." Owen paled, made a disgusted noise, and scurried away into the crowd. The rest of the walk to the restaurant was heavy with silence. Liam was coiled tight, his earlier ease completely gone. We slid into a booth, and I waited. "They've always said that," he finally said, his voice low, staring at the table. "That the scar was a curse. That it repulsed people. They used to try these black, smelly poultices on it, trying to burn it away. It just made it worse." He let out a shaky breath. I got used to staying out of sight. The knot in my chest tightened. He'd gotten used to it. The sheer resignation in those words was a physical ache. "Actually," I said, my voice softer than I intended. "We have a surprise for you." He looked up, his gray eyes guarded. I slid a plain blue bank card across the table. "The pin is your birthday." He stared at it, utterly bewildered. "My parents talked to some doctors," I explained. "I did a ton of research. There's a clinic in the city. They specialize in laser treatments for scars like yours. It's not a guarantee, but they've had great results." I took a deep breath. "We asked for an estimate. My dad, my mom, and we split it. My life savings were in a piggy bank shaped like a grinning skull. Smashing it felt weirdly symbolic." Liam was completely still, his lips parted slightly. He looked from the card to my face, his own a mask of stunned disbelief. It was as if I'd just handed him the keys to a spaceship instead of a debit card. "Wha? I can't," he stammered, his voice cracking. "What's wrong?" I teased gently, though my own eyes felt suspiciously warm. "Too moved to speak?" Just then, my phone buzzed with a video call. I answered and handed it to him. My parents' faces filled the screen, crowded into the frame. They were at a friend's barbecue, the sound of laughter in the background. "Happy birthday, kid," my dad boomed, his smile wide. "Take the card. Once that scar's gone, you're officially the new face of the salon. I'm putting you on posters." "Don't you dare, Leo," my mom chimed in, slinging a muscular arm around my dad's neck. "He's mine first. I need him for the gym's new marketing campaign. Get fighting fit with Liam. It's perfect." Liam's composure finally broke. A choked sound, half laugh, half sob, escaped his lips. His eyes glistened as he looked at their beaming, ridiculous faces. "Thank you," he whispered, the words thick with emotion. I don't know what to say." I rested my chin on my hand and smiled. "You can start by promising to pay me back my share with interest. I'm not running a charity, you know." I winked. "The comment, I heard you're going to be rich someday." He turned to me then, and the smile that spread across his face was unlike any I'd seen from him before. It wasn't hesitant or small. It was full, genuine, and lit up his whole face, scar and all. "Okay," he said, his voice firm, his gaze holding mine. "I promise." In that moment, watching him smile with a bank card full of hope clutched in his hand, I felt a fierce, triumphant joy. We weren't just patching him up. We were giving him back a piece of himself that his own family had tried to steal. And for the first time, I felt like we were truly winning against the shadow of the future the comments had foretold. The dermatology clinic in the city was all cool, minimalist elegance and the quiet hum of expensive machinery. My dad had driven us, cracking jokes to fill the tense silence in the car. Liam sat in the passenger seat, unusually still, watching the city skyline grow larger. While my dad went to the front desk to handle the final paperwork for Liam's first laser treatment, I slipped out to a nearby convenience store to grab bottles of water. the air felt charged, different. The comment feed, which had been unusually quiet all morning, was now a frantic, scrolling ticker tape of anticipation. *user_prime, it's happening. The timeline is syncing. Cannon alert, brace for impact. The true heroine enters stage left in 3, 2, 1. I hurried back, the plastic bag of water bottles crinkling in my grip. As I turned the corner into the stark white corridor leading to the treatment rooms, I saw her. A girl was clinging to Liam's arm. She was breathtaking. Tall and willowy, with hair the color of spun gold that fell in perfect waves. Her clothes were understated but screamed wealth, a simple silk blouse and tailored trousers. Her eyes, large and cornflower blue, were swimming with tears. I finally found you, she breathed, her voice a melodious tremor. I knew it was you. I never stopped looking. I froze mid-step. This was her. Chloe. Liam looked utterly bewildered, his body language a rigid line of discomfort. His first instinct wasn't to embrace her, but to gently, firmly, extricate his arm from her grasp. He never liked being touched by strangers. The comments exploded. Main lead energy, and here she is. Chloe Whitmore, everyone. Dylan backstory, she's the one. The childhood friend from before he was kidnapped. The one who never gave up hope. Ship wars begin, this is it. The original OTP. Sorry, Alara, but you're about to be relegated to friend status. You don't remember me? Chloe's voice broke beautifully. I'm Chloe. Chloe Whitmore. We lived next door to each other. We used to build forts in your garden. Liam's expression remained blank, a slight frown creasing his brow. The comments had mentioned he had no memories before the age of 7, lost to fever and trauma. You're not Liam Vance, she insisted, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. You're Liam Grayson. The eldest son of Alastair Grayson. You went missing from your 7th birthday party. She leaned closer. You have a small, star-shaped cluster of freckles on your right shoulder blade. I used to call them your secret constellation. Liam didn't confirm it, but I saw the subtle flicker in his eyes, the barely perceptible intake of breath. She was right. Chloe, encouraged, pulled out her phone and showed him a picture. The man on the screen was severe, handsome, with Liam's same stormy gray eyes and sharp jawline, but none of the weariness. He stood on a manicured lawn in front of a mansion that looked more like a museum. You look just like your father, she said softly. Then, her gaze flickered to the scar on his jaw, and her face filled with a pity so profound it felt like a physical blow. Oh, Liam. I'm so sorry. I'll find the best specialists in the world. We'll get rid of it. I promise. Her tone was full of a possessive, long-held affection. But Liam shook his head. That won't be necessary, he said, his voice quiet but firm. He turned, his gaze finding me still rooted to the spot at the end of the hallway. His eyes, which had been confused and clouded, softened. A small, private smile touched his lips. Alara and her parents have already taken care of it. Chloe's head swiveled, her brilliant blue eyes finally landing on me. They scanned me from my practical sneakers to my simple ponytail, a swift, assessing look that made me feel like a smudge on a pristine window. You're Alara, she said, more to herself than to me. A tiny, confused frown appeared. I don't remember. I don't remember hearing about you. I gave a weak, awkward smile. What was I supposed to say? Hi, I'm the cannon fodder who read the spoilers and decided to hijack your plot. She composed herself quickly, offering me a polite, distant smile. I have some very important things to discuss with Liam about his family. Would you mind giving us a moment? It wasn't a request. It was a dismissal. Liam opened his mouth, a protest forming on his lips, but I was already moving. I waved a hand, a gesture I hoped looked casual. No problem. I'll be with my dad. I walked away, my back straight, but I could feel the weight of the scene behind me. I didn't need to hear their conversation, the comment feed was a wildfire of revelation. Plot dump, his father, Alastair Grayson, is a billionaire. His business rivals kidnapped Liam to force a deal, but Alastair didn't budge. They sold him off out of spite. Tragic past, his mother died of grief within a year. The father barely searched for 2 weeks before his mistress moved in. Now the illegitimate son is in a coma after a crash, so dear old dad needs a backup heir. Heroine motivation, Chloe is using a gentle lie to bring him home. She's telling him his family searched for years, that they've been heartbroken. She just wants to save him from his horrible life. Asterisk I found my dad by the car, frowning at a receipt. Turns out the initial estimate was high. There's over $3,000 left on that card. We should give it back to Liam for his expenses. I took the card from his hand and pressed it back into his palm. I don't think he'll need it anymore, Dad. I told him everything. The Grayson name, the kidnapping, the cold-hearted father, the waiting fortune. My dad's face cycled through shock, anger, and finally, a strange, sad acceptance. A billionaire's son, he muttered, running a hand over his beard. No wonder those two who claimed to be his parents gave me the creeps. Shifty-eyed, the whole lot. He didn't know the half of it. I didn't tell him about the comments predicting Liam's future rage, his villainous turn. I just watched as a sleek, black luxury car pulled up to the clinic's entrance. Chloe emerged, guiding a shell-shocked Liam toward it. She glanced back at us. We'll arrange for a car to take you home. The Grayson family thanks you for your assistance. The door closed, and the car slid silently away from the curb, taking Liam Grayson, with it. He was gone, swallowed whole by the destiny I had tried so hard to erase. The boy I had found in a dirty alley, the one I'd fed and trained and protected, was now the heir to an empire. And I was just the girl from the salon, left standing on the sidewalk with a bag of warm water bottles and a future that suddenly felt terrifyingly empty. The following week was a surreal blur. A Grayson family car, silent and impossibly clean, whisked Dad and me to a penthouse apartment in the city that overlooked the entire skyline. We were treated like honored guests, fed delicate, artistic food by staff who never made eye contact, and chauffeured to museums and theaters we'd only ever seen on TV. It was lavish. It was hollow. I learned it was Liam who had insisted on this, his one condition for getting into that car, that we be looked after. A thank you. The word felt flimsy, a band-aid on a chasm. The Graysons hosted a welcome home gala. The guest list was a who's who of society pages. Dad and I, in our best clothes that still looked cheap next to the effortless silk and tailored wool, sat at a table in the far corner, watching the spectacle. Then Liam appeared at the top of a grand staircase. My breath caught. He was wearing a white suit that probably cost more than my dad's car. His hair was professionally styled, longer on top and swept back, revealing the full, striking planes of his face. He stood perfectly straight, his expression a mask of cool, detached composure as he surveyed the room. He looked like a prince. A stranger. Chloe, radiant in a gown of pale blue, floated to his side and linked her arm with his. She fit into this world like she was born for it. Feel like we're at a wedding, Dad muttered under his breath, sipping his sparkling water. I nodded, my throat tight. He was right. It felt like a coronation, and Chloe was his queen. That night, Dad and I packed the souvenir t-shirts we'd bought for Mom. We were leaving for the airport, cutting the sponsored trip short. The car was idling at the curb when Liam came running out of the hotel, his dress shoes slapping against the pavement. It was the most undignified I'd seen him since he'd returned to his gilded cage. He was slightly out of breath. You're leaving? So soon? Ben's desperate for a haircut, Dad said with forced cheerfulness. Thinks his split ends are a national crisis. He gave me a look and tactfully moved to load the bags, giving us a moment. Liam turned to me, his gaze intense, searching my face. The polished air was gone, replaced by the boy from the gym. Elara, he said, his voice low. Is there anything you want to say to me? Under the amber glow of the street lamp, his eyes were full of a desperate, unspoken plea. Asterisk ask me to stay. Tell me to come back. Say something. Asterisk I remembered the comments, the future they still predicted, a man consumed by bitterness, who would tear down everything in his path, including my family. My mission had been to prevent that. Maybe this distance was the only way. I straightened my shoulders. Yeah. Seriously, Liam, be a good person. The light in his eyes didn't just dim, it shattered. The hope drained from his face, leaving behind a stark, wounded emptiness. He took a small step back. The comment feed, which had been focused on the glamour of the gala, flickered back to life, noticing me for the first time in days. Asterisk, ouch, that was brutally practical. Villain path, and that, folks, is how you water the seeds of future resentment. Goodbye cannon fodder, well, that's her exit. It was a good run, Alara. Asterisk he just nodded, once, a sharp, mechanical motion. Right. He didn't say another word as we got into the car. As we pulled away, I watched his figure, solitary and stiff in his perfect white suit, grow smaller in the rearview mirror until he was swallowed by the glittering city. Back home, life resumed its normal rhythm. But Liam's name was now a ghost in the halls of our school. Did you hear? Liam Vance is actually Liam Grayson. As in, the Grayson Tech Empire. I heard he's transferring to some private Swiss academy. Do you think Alara's rolling in money now? She was, like, his only friend. The Graysons had tried to give my dad a check. He'd refused. We helped a kid because he needed it, he'd said, his voice firm. Not for a payoff. Even our salon clients asked. That quiet, handsome boy? He's not coming back to sweep up? And every time, a little piece of my heart ached. If only he were still here. Washing hair was exhausting work. I thought of Chloe, too. She'd sought me out once, her head tilted. You know, for a second, I thought you might be bound to assist him, too. What's his favorability rating with you? When I'd just stared, blank and confused, she'd smiled, relieved. Then she'd asked the question that had haunted me. Do you love him? My brain had stuttered. He's a good friend, I'd finally managed. Good, she'd said, her smile turning pitying. Because I'm going to pursue him, and I don't need any distractions. I just nodded, feeling slow and stupid. What was there to say? So, I was completely unprepared when, just 2 weeks later, I walked into my first period class and saw him. Liam. Not in a Swiss academy, not in a penthouse. Here. At our ordinary public school, sitting in the same desk he'd always used, his head bent over a textbook as if he'd never left. And sitting directly behind him, beaming, was Chloe Whitmore. The air in the school hallway was thick with unspoken words. Liam was back. Chloe was here. And Michael Dane, the scowling, impossibly handsome male lead who trailed after Chloe like a storm cloud, had also materialized, leaning against the lockers with an air of bored entitlement. The three of them formed a constellation of wealth and drama that our school had never seen. Scholarships were suddenly endowed, plans for a new science wing were announced, and the principal looked like he'd won the lottery. And I, Alara Reed, became a master of evasion. When Liam looked for me at my locker, I was suddenly very interested in a poster about the upcoming science fair. When he waited for me after class, I ducked out the back door. I told myself it was for the best. Chloe's warning echoed in my head, mingling with the comments that now constantly buzzed about their burgeoning romance. Asterisk, ship sailing, look at them. Chloe brought him his favorite tea. She remembers everything. Jealous male lead, Michael's glowering is everything. He's so threatened. Original plot resurgent, see? He's already softening toward her. It's only a matter of time. Asterisk after a week of my successful dodging, I went to the gym to blow off steam. I was pounding a heavy bag, my knuckles wrapped, sweat stinging my eyes, when the door creaked open. Liam stood there, already in gym shorts and a t-shirt. His gaze locked onto me. My rhythm faltered. The bag swung back toward me. Hiding? He asked, his voice flat. Training, I corrected, resuming my punches with more force than necessary. He didn't press it. He just started his own warm-up, his movements fluid and powerful. The scrawny boy from the alley was a distant memory. We moved to the sparring mats, a silent agreement passing between us. It was different from our old sessions. There was a new edge to him, a controlled ferocity. He was faster, stronger, his blocks sharper. The comments had mentioned private trainers and a system-approved combat program. It showed. I got distracted, thinking of Chloe, of the future, of the way he looked at her in the hallway. It was a split-second lapse, but it was all he needed. He executed a perfect sweep, taking my legs out from under me. In a fluid motion, he followed me down, pinning my wrists to the mat, his body caging mine. The air left my lungs in a rush. We were close, chests heaving, skin slick with sweat. His face was inches from mine, his stormy eyes dark and unreadable. I let out a breathless, nervous laugh. Well. You've been practicing. He didn't smile. He didn't even blink. Why have you been avoiding me? His voice was low, a vibration I felt through the mat. Did I do something wrong? No, I said, too quickly. I've just been busy. I tried to sit up, but he pressed down, not hard, but with an undeniable firmness. It was a new kind of intensity. An aggression I hadn't felt from him before. It sent a jolt through me. I froze. Before I could shove him off, he blurted out the accusation, his voice cracking with a raw hurt that stunned me. Did Chloe give you money to stay away from me? I went rigid. He'd seen. That day he'd tried to surprise me at home. He must have witnessed me accepting the sleek, black card from Chloe on my doorstep. I'd taken it, a tangible shackle to remind me to keep my distance. I hadn't spent a cent. His eyes were desperate, rimmed with red. Alara, I can give you way more than she ever could. Just don't ignore me. Please. The raw plea, the misunderstanding, the sheer unfairness of it all, after everything I'd done to protect him, to protect us, it broke something in me. The carefully constructed wall of practicality crumbled into dust. Anger, hot and sharp, surged up. I wasn't just a background character. I had fought for him. So I hit him. It wasn't a full-force punch, but a sharp, open-handed strike that snapped his head to the side. A thin line of blood welled at the corner of his lip. We both stared, breathing heavily. The world had narrowed to the sting in my palm and the shock in his eyes. Then, Liam laughed. It was a low, broken sound. Perfect. The comment feed erupted. *user_shocked Pikachu, did she just slap the villain? Angst lover, and he liked it. This is a new level of problematic. I'm here for it. Plot derailment, this is not in the system's preview. Chloe is going to lose her mind. His laughter died, and his expression turned devastatingly serious. You and Chloe, I said, the words tasting like ash. You make a good pair. The light in his eyes extinguished completely. He let go of my wrists and sat back, pulling his knees up. He was silent for a long moment, the only sound our ragged breathing. Then, quietly, he asked the question that shattered me. So, am I still your friend? I looked at him, the boy I'd fed, trained, and defended, the boy who was now looking at me like I was holding his entire world in my hands, ready to crush it. I felt an ache so profound it was a physical pain. But I made myself smile. You're my very, very good friend, Liam. He just nodded, slowly. He stood up, wiped the blood from his lip with the back of his hand, and walked out of the gym without another word. I was left alone on the mats, the ghost of his touch and the echo of my own lie hanging in the air. I had done what I thought was right. I had pushed him back toward his destiny. So why did it feel like I had just lost everything? After the sparring session, Liam retreated. He didn't seek me out. In the hallways, he'd offer a polite, distant nod before continuing on his way, usually with Chloe Whitmore at his side and Michael Dane fuming a few steps behind. They were the school's new triumvirate, a living soap opera that played out daily against the dull backdrop of calculus and history. Chloe, true to her role as the heroine, was relentless. She was charming, attentive, and wielded her knowledge of his past like a key to a lock only she could open. I watched from a distance, my stomach a tight knot of something I refused to name. The comment feed was a constant, gleeful chorus, celebrating every tiny moment between them. She remembered his favorite flower, its sweet PEA. She remembered. Villain softening, did you see how he looked at her when she said that? The ice is melting. Finale approaching, get ready, the big confession is coming. It's gonna be epic. The big confession was the talk of the school. Chloe was planning something grand, a party in the auditorium after the spring formal. Everyone knew. Everyone was invited. I told myself I wouldn't go. It was masochistic. But as the day arrived, a restless, clawing energy under my skin drove me to the auditorium doors. I had to see it. I had to burn the image into my mind so I could finally move on. The room was transformed. Twinkling lights, elegant decorations, a string quartet in the corner. It was a world away from the gym where I'd punched him. Chloe stood in the center of it all, a vision in a champagne-colored dress, her confidence radiant. And then she did it. In front of everyone, under a spotlight, she poured her heart out. She spoke of childhood memories, of a connection that time and tragedy couldn't break, of a future she'd always dreamed of. Liam Grayson, she said, her voice clear and sure, I've loved you since we were children. Will you give us, a real chance? The room held its breath. Liam stood before her, his face an unreadable mask. He looked at her, then his gaze swept the crowd, and for a heart-stopping second, it landed on me, standing in the shadows at the back. He turned back to Chloe. And he nodded. A single, sharp nod. A wave of applause and cheers erupted. Chloe's face lit up with triumphant joy. She grabbed his hand, holding it aloft. My heart didn't just break, it crystallized, then shattered into a million jagged pieces. The ache was so sharp it was a physical pain in my chest. This was it. The story was back on track. He would be happy with her. He had to be. But then a voice, small and treacherous, whispered in my mind, would he? I remembered a snippet of conversation I'd overheard between Chloe and Michael, a boast she'd let slip. The system says the more emotional turmoil he experiences, the deeper his attachment to me becomes. It's perfect. He wasn't a person to her. He was a mission. A trophy. Panic, hot and fierce, obliterated my resolve. I couldn't let this happen. I couldn't stand by and watch him be manipulated into a destiny that would only bring him more pain. Before I could second-guess myself, I stepped out of the shadows. My voice cut through the celebratory noise, loud and clear. Chloe, I called out. Do you really love Liam? The room fell silent. All heads turned toward me. Liam's head snapped in my direction, his eyes wide. Was it a trick of the light, or was that hope? Chloe's smile didn't falter, but it tightened at the edges. She looked amused. Of course I do, she said, her tone sweet but laced with condescension. But before she could say another word, Michael Dane exploded. He stormed the stage, his face a mask of jealous rage, and shoved Liam hard. You ruin everything, he roared, swinging a wild punch. I won't let you have her. Chaos erupted. And my body moved on instinct. All the training, all the protective fury, it all converged into that single moment. I launched myself forward, ducked between them, and dragged Liam out of the way, shoving him toward Chloe. Then I turned on Michael. It wasn't a fight, it was a dismantling. I blocked his clumsy swings, swept his legs, and had him pinned on the ground in seconds, my knee in his back. The crowd gasped. Stop it. Stop. Chloe was shrieking, hopping uselessly on the sidelines. Michael, writhing under my hold, spat out, What the hell is wrong with you? You don't even like him. Why are you acting like this? The words tore out of me, louder than I intended, ringing in the sudden silence. I never said I didn't like him. The room went utterly still. Chloe's screaming stopped. A strange, calculating look crossed her face, followed by a dawning realization of her own failure. She looked from Liam's stunned, hopeful face to mine, and she started to laugh. It was a hollow, defeated sound. Oh, she said, her voice dripping with irony. We were just pretending. Michael and I froze. Pretending? I repeated, my grip on him loosening. Liam was the one who answered, his voice soft but carrying through the silent room. She told me it was the only way to make you see. To make you jealous. He was looking only at me. The mask was gone. The cold air, the distant classmate, the broken boy, they had all fallen away. What was left was just Liam. The Liam I knew. My system, Chloe muttered, staring at a space only she could see, her face pale. His affection level for me just dropped to 0. She looked at Liam, a genuine hurt in her eyes now. All this time, it was always her? The comment feed, which had been chanting Chloe's name moments before, exploded into a new, ecstatic frenzy. Plot twist of the century. The cannon fodder strikes back. Ship sunk. New ship launched. Liam walked toward me, stepping around a groaning Michael and a stunned Chloe. He didn't stop until he was right in front of me. He crouched down so we were eye level, his gaze intense, vulnerable, and full of a terrifying, wonderful hope. You can always tell how much someone loves you, he said, his voice trembling just slightly. Just look at their eyes. He took a deep breath. How should I thank my hero for saving me? He extended his hand, palm up, an invitation and a question. Would giving you my whole life be enough? My heart was pounding, a wild, joyful rhythm that drowned out everything else. The comments, the crowd, the past, the future, it all faded away. There was only him. I reached out and took his hand, my fingers lacing with his. A grin spread across my face, wide and unburdened. I said, my voice steady and sure. I wouldn't say no. I wasn't just a forgettable extra in Liam Grayson's story. I wasn't the cannon fodder. I was the one who had rewritten it. And in this new story, I was the only leading lady. The silence in the auditorium was absolute, a vacuum waiting to be filled. My hand was still wrapped in Liam's, our joined fingers the only solid thing in a world that had just been turned inside out. Chloe's hollow laughter had faded, leaving her looking pale and strangely small. Michael Dane picked himself up off the floor, his pride more bruised than his body, and slunk away into the crowd, the fight gone out of him. Liam didn't look at them. His entire world had narrowed to the space between us. His gray eyes, usually so stormy and guarded, were clear, reflecting the twinkling lights above and something else, a vulnerable, unwavering certainty. You can always tell how much someone loves you, he'd said. Just look at their eyes. I was looking. And I saw it. Not gratitude, not the dependency of a rescued stray, but a deep, resonant love that had been patiently waiting for me to catch up. How should I thank my hero for saving me? He asked, his voice a low, intimate murmur that somehow carried through the stunned silence. He extended his free hand, palm up, a final, breathtaking question. Would giving you my whole life be enough? The last of my resistance, the fear of the comments, the shadow of a predetermined future, all of it crumbled to dust. A grin, wide and unburdened, spread across my face. I reached out and took his offered hand, lacing my fingers with his so that both our hands were now joined. I said, my voice steady and sure, echoing in the quiet room. I wouldn't say no. A collective, soft gasp rippled through the audience, followed by a wave of murmurs and a few scattered, genuine cheers. The comment feed, which had been a chaotic scroll of shock, erupted into a unified, brilliant celebration. Asterisk, and the cannon fodder gets the man. Justice. The villain arc has been officially cancelled. Repeat, the villain arc is cancelled. This is the only ending that makes sense. She earned this. They earned this. Forever and ever. Sparkle. 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 Asterisk, the sparkling text filled my peripheral vision, not as a warning or a spoiler, but as a celebration. They were no longer narrating a story, they were applauding its conclusion. Chloe watched us, a complex mix of resignation and dawning understanding on her perfect features. Her system, whatever it was, had failed. The plot armor had shattered. She offered a small, wry smile, a silent acknowledgement of her defeat, before turning and walking away, her own story with the male lead perhaps still waiting to be written elsewhere. Liam led me off the stage, his hand firmly in mine, not caring about the stares or the whispers. We didn't stop until we were outside, the cool night air a shock against our flushed skin. The pretending, I started, the question finally surfacing. The whole thing with Chloe, she told me it was the only way to break through your stubbornness, he explained, a faint smile touching his lips. She said you saw yourself as a side character in my story and that you were trying to push me toward my rightful ending. She promised that if I went along with it, it would force you to see the truth. He shook his head, his thumb stroking the back of my hand. I was desperate. I would have agreed to anything to stop you from looking through me. And your father? The Empire? I made a deal with him, Liam said, his gaze steady. I'll learn the business, I'll be the heir, but on my terms. I go to my own school. I live my own life. And the first of those terms was that I got to come back here. To you. He had fought for me. While I was busy trying to sacrifice my own happiness for a future I thought was inevitable, he had been quietly, stubbornly rewriting the rules of his entire world to include me. The following weeks were a new kind of normal. Liam Grayson, billionaire heir, still showed up at Clash and Curls to sweep up hair. He still trained at the gym with my mom, who now critiqued his form with the added authority of a future mother-in-law, a title that made both Liam and my dad blush. He walked me to school every morning, his hand finding mine without a second thought, the whispers now ones of awe and curiosity instead of pity or fear. The comments had faded, their purpose served. They were like stagehands who had quietly left after the final curtain call. The story was ours now. One evening, as we were closing up the salon, Liam stopped me by the front door. The closed sign was flipped, and the setting sun cast long, golden shadows through the room. You know, he said softly, you never actually answered my question properly. Which one? I asked, feigning ignorance as I wiped down the counter. The one about the frozen buns or the one about my math homework? He smiled, that full, genuine smile that was mine alone. The one about my whole life. I stopped cleaning and looked at him, at the boy from the alley who had become a man, at the villain who had chosen a different path, at the heir who had chosen a simple salon over a penthouse, all for me. I stepped forward, closing the distance between us, and reached up, my fingers gently tracing the silvery line of the scar on his jaw, the map of his past that he no longer hid. I think, I said, my voice full of a love so profound it felt like the truest thing I had ever known, that my answer is yes. Every single day. Yes. He leaned down, and his lips met mine in a kiss that was both a promise and a beginning. It was not the dramatic, plot-driven kiss of a storybook, but something better, real, earned, and utterly ours. I wasn't the girl who walked by. I wasn't the cannon fodder. I was Alara Reed, the leading lady in a story we had written together. And our adventure was just beginning.